So, you've just started playing Beasts of Bermuda, and you want to play the Apatosaurus. Well, I have just two questions for you. Do you like stun locking?
Yep, I can do that. Wait, I'm gonna be stuck in the air. What the fuck? The fuck was that?
And do you like AFKing for literal hours on end? If so, then Apatosaurus, the deceptive lizard, is for you. Apatosaurus' base health at 1.0 is 6,000, and it has 5,000 base weight, making it the tankiest and heaviest creature in the game by a pretty large margin. It also has some serious damage to back it up, dealing over 800 damage with its left-click stomp and over 300 with its right-click tail whip. To compensate for this, it is also the slowest creature in the game, and it's tied with Rex for the slowest growth. It takes around 20 hours to get to 1.2 on an Apato, meaning that for most people it'll be a multiple day feat, although some committed people can do it in one. In-game, Apato is a tank, a full-on raid boss. It'll take a skilled Psy player or several Rexes or Acros to take one down solo. But the thing is, they're hardly ever solo. They're often living in huge herds AFKing around bodies of water. And that's really how you're going to spend most of your time as an Apato, no matter what server you play on. AFKing next to your herdmates, and occasionally getting up when one of them says that they found a fat plant, or when you need to fill up on water. Apato, while it seems to have a high food and water drain, actually has double the max food and water stats of most land creatures, meaning that you can get a maximum of 260 food when at max fat, and 200 water. This allows for even subadult Apatos to AFK for extended periods of time, with little to nothing to fear since they have herdmates keeping eyes out for predators. There's been a lot of debates recently in Bob regarding the Apatosaurus, with a lot of people claiming that it's the most OP creature in Bob. I don't think this is entirely true. I think other creatures like Velo, Psy, and Acro are just as OP, if not more, in some regards. But I get what people are saying. I think rather than saying it's the most OP creature in Bob, I would say that Apato is the easiest creature to grow in Bob. It gives you the most bang for your buck. Like, for a couple days of watching Netflix and occasionally tabbing in game to fill up, you get the largest, tankiest creature in the game. Compare that to a Rex, which I would like to reiterate has the same growth rate as an Apato, and has a fraction of the health that you have. It takes 3 Rexes to take down an Apato of the same size, and as a Rex, you're needing to constantly move around and eat cores and hunt other players. You can't AFK at all. The only time a Rex is able to AFK like an Apato is when they manage to take down an Apato, because then they can get sat from the gore. But that's incredibly difficult to do. Apatos are just too easy to grow for how strong they are right now. Are they the strongest? No. But for how easy they are to grow, they do come awfully close. Give it a higher food and especially water drain, so you can't just stay at the same water source for hours AFKing. Make it so you actually have to move around the map as a Apato. I like what they've done with it. It does drain a significant amount of water from smaller sources, but it's just not enough at the moment. Apatos have 2 attacks, a slow stomp that does a huge amount of damage, and a tail whip that does lower damage, but with a lot more reach and a higher attack rate. When you're playing Apato, you're not really going to be using your stomp all that much, actually. It uses too much AP for the amount of damage it does, and it's usually really hard to land. It's a really slow wind-up, and unless you're a skilled Apato player or the creatures hunting you are just really bad, you're not going to land them that often. Your main strategy is going to be to find a way to protect your neck and head, either by walking to the edge of a cliff or shoving your front half into a rock. Your tail whip reaches roughly 180 degrees, able to reach your hind legs, and it does some knockback, so as long as they're not able to reach your front half, you can just spam your left click and nothing can really get to you. Your tail whip has another feature that's technically a bug, so they don't really talk about it all that much, and that's stun locking. Stun locking with your tail makes it so you can chain multiple hits on the same target, and because they're knocked up, they aren't able to move or fight back in any way whatsoever, so you can just spam that shit until they're fully dead. With the recent nerfs to the whip crack talent, however, it is a little harder to actually pull this off, but it's still very possible and very abusable. For creatures Apato counters, pretty much anything small can't really do much. Terras quite literally do negative damage to Apatos past 0.4. Aquatics are definitely countered by Apatos, especially since they don't have the health to be able to tank one, and Apatos are able to protect smaller herdmates from Moza and Elasmograb by their sheer size. Like, you just back your ass up and shove your ass into the water and nothing can get past you. Rexes as well are definitely countered by Apatos. They do have some serious damage and can face tank just about anything else, but Apatos are just too big for Rexes to take on realistically unless you have a pack. For creatures that counter Apatos, Acro and Psy are definitely the big ones. Acro was designed in the game to be a counter to Apato. Like, their health pool and crazy healings mean they can get hit by a stomp and survive, and heal up and be back in the fight a minute later. Their bleed and zero ability also reduces the damage of any attacks the Apato puts out. So while a solo Acro is hardly a threat, a pack can easily shred through any Apato. Although, in my opinion, the number one counter that people don't talk about near as much is Psy. Psy Reflect makes it one of the only creatures able to take on large Apatos. For most creatures, even Acros actually, once an Apato reaches like 1.6 plus, they're so tanky and the reach of their tail is so high that it becomes almost impossible to even hit them. Psys, though, have some serious fall resistance and tankiness especially, and the Reflects make stomping pretty much impossible, or else the Apato risks taking some serious recoil damage. Another creature I do want to mention is Megalo. After 1.2, Megalos get a serious buff to their jump height, meaning that they're one of the only creatures able to hit the head of an Apato. But this can be easily countered by an Apato using screenshot mode to just stick their head inside of their chest, making it unable to be hit, but it is still worth mentioning. For talent builds on Apato, speed and combat are going to be the main ones, and more commonly a mix of both as you get bigger. Whip Crack and Turnwell Stomping are S-tier talents for sure, and necessary for any Apato player. Thick Hide and Constitution are nice for making yourself a lot tankier and resisting a lot of damage, although Thick Hide is countered by Sharp Teeth, a talent which almost every carnivore has, and Psy Reflect is not affected by it. One build I do want to mention is full survival Apato. Solo, you should never build an Apato survival. Maybe I could see a mix of combat and survival could be viable on like a low population server, but as soon as something spots you, you're as good as dead. In a herd, however, it can be very useful. Shelterer and Intimidation are amazing talents. They make it so herbivores around you can get 100% shelter and 100% comfort, actually, once you get to a decent size, which allows them to grow quicker and take longer to take stress damage. 4 out of 3 Intim can even overcome certain debuffs, like the Overcrowded debuff, and even the Necro debuff if you have a large enough Apato. The food and water drain increase as well makes you able to AFK for even longer. And that's going to wrap up this guide on Apatosaurus. Definitely a strong creature, one of the more OP in the game at the moment for sure, and an incredibly easy grow if you have the time for it. Alright, I'll see you all later. Peace.